When you think of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, what usually comes to mind? Maybe a grand story of wealth, power, maybe even romance. But what if the real story, the one hiding just beneath the surface, is actually about a high-stakes intellectual duel? Well, today we're diving deep into a Qur'anic commentary that completely reframes this famous encounter. It presents it as a masterclass in seeing what true power really is, not gold, not armies, but wisdom itself.
Okay, so here's our game plan for breaking down this royal chess match. First, we're going to look at the Queen's opening move, a really calculated political risk. Then, we'll see Solomon's incredible counter, where he shows his power isn't something you can measure in gold. After that, the board is set for his own brilliant test, the disguised throne. We'll analyze the Queen's absolutely masterful response, and then finally, we'll see how all of these moves lead to this profound moment of clarity, this understanding of what it truly means to submit to a higher truth.
All right, so our story kicks off at a moment of just extreme political tension. The Queen of Sheba is holding a letter from King Solomon, and this isn't just any letter. It's a message so direct, so powerful, that it could mean either a great alliance or total annihilation. The fate of her entire kingdom, literally everything, rests on what she does next. And her first move, her wisest move, is to not go it alone. She calls her council.
So she lays out the situation for her top advisors, and their response is exactly what you'd expect from a powerful military state. They immediately go to what they know best, their own strength. The commentary here points out that this is just the classic mindset of worldly power, right? When your only tool is a hammer, every problem starts to look like a nail. They're basically saying, hey, just give us the order, we're ready for war.
But this is where the Queen's response shows that her mind is just on a completely different level. She doesn't just dismiss their strength, she sees past it. She brilliantly points out the brutal, ugly reality of conquest, that when kings invade, they bring ruin, they destroy, and they humiliate the very people they conquer. She's showing a political wisdom that goes way beyond the simple idea that might makes right. She's thinking 3 moves ahead, she's calculating the devastating cost of war, and she's choosing the path of intelligence first.
So, having skillfully avoided the path of war, the Queen decides to send out a diplomatic probe. She sends this magnificent gift to Solomon, but you gotta understand, this is not a simple tribute. Oh no, this is a carefully designed test. She wants to find out what kind of ruler she's really dealing with. Is he just another king, motivated by greed and gold? His reaction is going to tell her everything.
Solomon gets this lavish gift, and his response is as fast as it is stunning. He doesn't just reject it, he completely dismantles the whole reason she sent it. He asks, "You're trying to impress me with wealth? Seriously?" This isn't just him saying, "No thanks." He's fundamentally changing the entire conversation, shifting it away from the material and straight to the divine.
Now, the commentary is really clear on this point. We can't mistake Solomon's reaction for arrogance. It's not pride. It's a critical declaration of his principles. He's establishing that his entire kingdom, all his power, his very worth, it all operates on a completely different value system. By putting her worldly gift up against what God has given him, he makes it crystal clear that a divine blessing is just fundamentally superior. He's moving the goalposts from a game of earthly politics to one of spiritual reality.
And this right here, this perfectly illustrates that pivot point, grounding it right in the original text. That phrase, "Fama atani Allahu khayrun," what Allah has given me is better, that is the axis this whole encounter turns on. He's not saying his treasures are bigger or shinier than hers. He's saying the source of his power is something her gold can't buy and her armies could never defeat. He has passed her test, all right, but in a way she could never have possibly imagined, proving he is unlike any king she has ever known.
Okay, so let's move to the next stage of this incredible intellectual chess match, because now the tables have completely turned. We've seen Solomon's values, and now we get to see his wisdom in action. It's Solomon's turn to issue a test, and knowing the Queen is on her way, he prepares an encounter that isn't designed to intimidate her with power, but to probe the very depths of her perception and her wisdom.
I mean, think about it. This is the real question Solomon is wrestling with. He's already shown that material wealth means nothing to him. He's already got this power that commands armies of humans, jinn, and even birds. So what kind of test can you give someone like that? It has to be on a higher plane. It has to be a test of the mind.
And as you can see here, his plan is nothing short of ingenious. First, you get this raw display of supernatural power. He has her actual throne, transported from her kingdom to his in the blink of an eye. But then comes the masterstroke of subtlety. He gives the command, Nakiru laha arshaha, disguise her throne for her. He orders it to be altered, just enough to create some doubt. The goal isn't just to see if she recognizes it, it's to see how she handles the uncertainty of looking at something that is both hers and not hers. It's a seriously sophisticated psychological puzzle.
So the moment of truth arrives. The queen walks into Solomon's court, and there it is, her own throne, but different. And then she's asked this seemingly simple yet incredibly loaded question. Is your throne like this?
Her answer has been studied for centuries, and for good reason. It is a total masterclass in diplomacy and pure intelligence. She doesn't say yes it is. That would be a trap, right? It would make her look like she didn't even notice the obvious changes. But she also doesn't say, no, it's not. That's the other trap. It would be factually wrong, and she'd look foolish once the truth came out. Instead, she just walks this razor's edge between the two with absolute precision.
So this is the crucial part, this specific phrase, كَأَنَّهُ هُوَ. The commentary just celebrates this answer as the perfect linguistic and intellectual move, as though it is it. It does two things at once. It confirms that yes, the resemblance is undeniable, but it also subtly acknowledges that she sees the differences. It's her way of saying, I see what you've done here, I'm not easily fooled, but I'm also not blind to the truth sitting in front of me. Now that is a power move. In one short sentence, she completely aced his test, proving she had an intellect worthy of her crown.
So, after that incredible display of sharp intellect, we finally arrive at the story's conclusion, the queen's submission. But, and this is really important, the source text is very careful to explain that this wasn't a military surrender. This wasn't her being overwhelmed by a single flashy miracle. No, this was the result of a careful, logical, rational process.
Her decision was the only logical endpoint of a journey based on evidence. Let's just run through the list of evidence she gathered. First, she saw a king who valued divine favor way more than gold. Second, she came face to face with a wisdom so deep it could create such a subtle test of her own mind. And third, she witnessed a power so immense it could literally bend the laws of physics and teleport her throne across a vast distance instantly. She connected all those dots and came to an inescapable conclusion. Solomon's authority didn't come from an army or a bank, it came directly from God. So her submission wasn't to Solomon the man, it was to the divine reality he so clearly represented. It was an intellectual conviction, not a political concession.
And so, after deconstructing this incredible encounter, we're left with a really powerful and timeless question. This whole narrative forces us to look at our own ideas of what makes for true, legitimate authority. Is it brute force? Is it the allure of gold? Is it just clever political maneuvering? Or, as this ancient story so beautifully suggests, is it rooted in something way deeper? A foundation of profound wisdom, a higher moral code, and a clear connection to a truth that goes way beyond our material world. That's the question this encounter leaves for us to ponder, all these centuries later.